Hi everyone, welcome to Building the World of Valkyrie. My name's Andy Robinson, or CZB Terror Shark, and I'm a narrative designer, creative designer on Valkyrie. I've also got with me Ash Reed.
Hey guys.
Yep,
Sound designer, hungover, CCP sign. He'll explain the rest.
Yeah. So how are you feeling this morning? We've got the very coveted 11 a.m. Saturday slot. So I included the legendary Tears of a Round picture that we have in the office for these things. We're a little bit raspy.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of a cold. So you got two Marge Simpson impersonators.
Yeah,
one legitimately with blue hair.
Sexy baritone voice going down.
Yeah, but yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to start telling you guys a little bit about some of the lore and the creative stuff and how we built the Valkyrie world. That's really what we're here to talk about. So at past Fanfests, I've talked a lot about two things really. A lot of people have asked me about the story and the bits that go behind Valkyrie, and what it really comes down to is like a front of house and a back of house story. Like, what we show in a game that's like a heavily multiplayer game, we don't have cinematics at the start. Up until recently, we didn't really have as much single-player content either. We really were focused on making a great multiplayer dogfighting game. So there's not a lot of story to be told in there in terms of getting it out. But in terms of back of house, in terms of what we have in the office, from day one, we started building up a creative framework. So as EVR became Valkyrie, we knew that we had to turn what was essentially a 3-minute show floor demo into a larger game. I've heard the words flesh it out, but flesh it out isn't really a good term. That means it feels like we're stretching it. You know, it feels like we're trying to build something or pull something over and make something more out of something. What we wanted to do was take the great foundations that EVR built, but give it backbone, give it structure, give it something that we could build around, we could make a great game and we could build Valkyrie from. So that foundation helped us start building levels, helped us start building maps, all these kind of things. But that's the back of house story. That's what I was talking about. Like from day one, we've really been putting a lot of work into building this, creating this world. Like for everything you see, we've been like looking at, sort of putting so much behind it. So obviously Valkyrie is a mixture of Eve. We don't throw New Eden away by anything, like it's heavily taken from its aesthetic. But we wanted to build something new. It's New Eden with a twist. There's a lot of new stories to be told. You guys have told a great amount of stories over the last 13 years in EVE Online. Valkyrie has more stories to tell. We're shining a light on a different perspective of New Eden. You know, we're moving right inside the cockpit and getting in there and starting to tell new stories just from your personal perspective, not from a ship's distance away or a space distance away. So a lot of people said to me, does a multiplayer game need a story? And that's maybe the case. I don't know. I mean, to build a strong multiplayer game, do we need a storyline? And I genuinely believe that we absolutely do. Like, it's not about making a long trailer or these kind of pieces initially. It's about building an immersive game for VR. Like, to feel the immersion, we have to have everything. We have to have all the creative teams in the office working from the same page. I really did want to try and do this talk without using the word immersion, if I could. I think it's a little bit overused in these talks, and experience as well, but they're the go-to VR words. So yeah, for us, it was really, really important to have this back of house story, to have something to start building our world from. So jumping back a few years, I was looking through when I was trying to put this deck together for you guys, this presentation together, to like what we've had, like looking back to the very first stuff we started, the mood boards we started to put together when we were building Valkyrie. And Valkyrie became a thing, when we got the go to start building this great game that you're seeing today through in that other demo room. I started looking at the things that interest me, that sparked the team's interest over in Newcastle to put this game together. So firstly, we really look at like the concept of the anonymous pilot. One of the main things, one of the great things about Valkyrie is it completely transposes you, the player, into the pilot. You don't play as someone else. You don't play as another character. You live this thing as you. You get into the cockpit and you fly that ship, and you can take that away from you. That's the in-person perspective philosophy that we've really tried to push through the game as much as possible. I really love this picture down on the bottom left here. It was a massive inspiration for me. I'll come back to some things that it helped us build later on, but there's something about that picture, the kind of the loneliness of space. And Valkyrie is essentially a game, a social game, a multiplayer fighting game, but there's something about being in that cockpit yourself where you just feel like this is mine, this is my little bit of space, and I'm going to fight through this. I also wanted to define a subculture. Now, I know that the Pirates Uneven line exist, and you've heard about the Guristas, but we haven't really, as a company, as CCP, shone a huge light on what they do, what they are, how they work, how things move around. So Valkyrie's given this chance to explore that. We really want to absorb the player into the rebellion, into the pirate lifestyle as much as we can, and that meant defining a subculture for them. This is a community of people that grows and amalgamates. It takes things from Eve, and it pushes things back to Eve as well. And I think we'll see as the future of Valkyrie, as we released the game a couple of weeks ago, and we continue to support it, we'll see more and more stuff come through. We'll see the game change, the feelings and the nuances of the subculture move along. The cockpits, this is a big thing for us. Going back to transposing player and pilot, the pilot is you. That means the cockpits are our characters. The cockpits are where you experience all of the game. You capture the feel of VR there. They're all built from the ground up to really exemplify themselves. The heavy feels heavy, it feels overburdened, it feels weighted. You can feel the strength of the metal above you. We're looking at submarines and it's trying to get that pressure above you to feel like you're getting pushed down. The support, a very open ship, large glass, being able to look around everywhere, be able to support people. They all exemplify, the classes that they are, and to do that helped us make a great VR experience, as well as something that was gameplay-wise very strong for the game. It also looks back to the subculture stuff we talked about. These are not fresh ships. They're not newly off the production line ships. They're covered in aftermarket mods. There's wires sticking out. There's things open and little cracks and panels that haven't been quite welded in properly and stuff. And that's really part of the feel we're going for, not to take that freshness, but just get that real kind of dirty pirate kind of feel in there. Yeah, it's just another big mood board of cockpits that I really liked. There's just lots of great stuff. Old Russian sci-fi books, and there's just a great history of cockpits in the world. We want to build cockpits that put us into that lineage. So we began to fill the world with characters. Raun, obviously, was our initial start, the famous Raun Kavik. She's the one that really starts to bind Valkyrie together as a game. She was the person that you can plant your flag behind her, and she became the poster of our game. I've got up here a quick timeline. I really should think about trying to get this out in a dev blog sometime soon. I don't think you can probably see it particularly well up here. But as I looked at this, we're trying to get a sense of where things happened in the game. As you can see right along at the end here in the green track, that's where your game starts. But all this stuff comes before it. The stories you've read from the graphic novel are a part of that. Things that we've told in Chronicles are part of that. We've tried to build this world that all happened before you got there, so that when you got there, it's all ready for you just to jump in. So I will try and get a dev blog out soon with some of this information, give you a little bit more details about it, if I can. And that brings us to Chronicles. Convoy was our first Chronicle. It started off as a beautiful trailer, and people said, I'd love to play that. But what Convoy is for us is really, it was an ambition we had from day one. It's something we wanted to see. We wanted, like you, to fly amongst the big ships, to get stuck in there, to get in and around the ships. So it was really great to have it. It's just a snippet a little single-player experience you can take away from Valkyrie. It's allowed us to give us a short, narrative-driven moment of VR wow, a place where we can bridge the gaps between this front of house we're talking about, the storylines that you see, and the back of house, the story that we have. These are little portals that we can get, where we can get more information to you. We can start to build the characters, give you a greater feel for the characters, what they do, what happened to them. And Convoy is legendary for the place where Round died, so it's a good place to start. Moving away from Chronicles, we also have the Scout mode. I don't know if do you guys know what the Crow's Nest is? Is that something like, I don't know how many people have got their hands on the game, but in the game's front end now, if you look around to the back, if you look directly behind yourself, there's a little working pub, little bar behind you, you can see, and that's called the Crow's Nest. And we're starting to build something, we're starting to build a bit of life around the Crow's Nest. We're trying to build there's characters there, there's people, like the ship, the Valkyrie is a living, breathing ship. Stuff's happening on it, So it's starting to build those characters in. So on the Scout mode aspect, as well as having things from Round and things from Fatal, we're also going to have stuff. We've got a barfly, a guy that hangs out of the Crow's Nest, and he talks to people, and he has as much information, like a conspiracy theorist. Like he has as much information as anyone else. I also like this picture because you can finally see the missing bulbs that we put into that thing, which are difficult to see in the game. So Round, great character. Katie Sackhoff's amazing voice. She's a great character to write for, especially when you know that Katie Sackhoff is going to be recording your stuff. When Katie Sackhoff's going to be breathing life into those lines. She's got that military history, so she's a little bit sharper. She's got that kind of technique and those tactics and stuff in there. But she's also a very soulful character, I feel, at least. She looks after the Valkyrie. If you're with her, you're part of her team. So we try and reinforce that mixture of heavy military feel alongside a nurturing presence, like someone that really looks after you. She wants the best for you. She wants the best for the Valkyrie. I've got a short clip here from one of the monologues from our shipyard map, just to let you hear, because her voice gives you a little shiver.
Amongst the construction platforms and docking bays of this old shipyard lies a field of empty shells. Behind the blast doors and crosshatch metal frameworks, the failure of 1,000 pilot transfers. A reminder that despite my situation, my resurrection could have been more difficult. Fatal has testing facilities all over, working on new technology, advancing and refining. A proud empire on the fringes of science, hidden from prying eyes. The amount of resources he controls under the guise of the Guristas is staggering. The only cure is to burn it to the ground.
Great. Can't get enough of that stuff. So then, with Round in place, with a protagonist in place, it's time to put an antagonist in place, a second team, a second person, like someone who's not good, who's not always on the side of right or wrong, depending on which side you want to take it. And we've started to put together Fatal. Now, Fatal is an old EVE character. Does anyone know Fatal from EVE Online? Yeah, one. It's okay. That's fine. That's one of the reasons we picked him. He is a known quantity in some respect. He is an EVE Online character, but he's not been around for 10 years. He effectively died 10 years ago. And that gives us a flexibility. We can build this character up now for Valkyrie ourselves. We can build him how we need him to be, but he still has a history and a lineage within this game. He's still connected to EVE. It's the same as we've done with everything. It is EVE Online, but it has that twist. So with him, we look to build someone there was a small bio about him that we found where he's a sharp-tongued, very military-minded man. What we built him into, the voice we want a distinct voice, a voice that cut through. So he's a little bit Frank Underwood, a little bit House of Cards. He's got that southern kind of twang to his accent, but it helps us define him. We didn't just want a really flat, normal kind of voice for him. We needed something with a bit of gravitas with it, something behind it. He's an incredibly fun character to write for. You can write things in his VO scripts that you can't write for Round or the other people because he's a bit twisted. You always feel like he's hanging on your clone vat, just about to cut off one of your fingers or poke out your eye or something. He's a creepy dude. I've got a small monologue from him too.
Amazing how circumstances change in just a few short years. I'm a man who prides himself on being in the loop, you see. The secrets and lies of a galaxy flowed towards me. An entrepreneur's real currency is knowledge, but with my death came a form of bankruptcy, a feeling of isolation that I am personally unfamiliar with. However, the challenges of this new world excite me. Shedding my notoriety has been a liberating experience. Working outside of the spotlight has afforded me new opportunities. I own more than just your indiscretions now. I own everything you are.
Creepy. So Fatal Form Schism. Sorry, that was really croaky. Schism. Fatal Form Schism, which is a small shoot-off of the Guristas. Again, starting Schism ourselves gave us some flexibility. It gave us some opportunity to do things that we wanted to do without trampling on Eve's toes too much. Like we're in constant contact with the Eve Online team and the Gunjack teams, and we talk story a lot, but Schism is like a secret little project on the side that the Rabbit knows about, that Schism that Fatal is pushing forward, that gives us the flexibility to build something specifically for Valkyrie and use our own things, put our own design that we want in, put our own gameplay in, and really push this something towards VR. So that's why we decided not to go with a traditional Eve race or like an Eve pirate faction, but build something ourselves. And that's allowing us to feed back into EVE Online as well. You know, that's bringing new threads into EVE Online, hopefully, in the future. I was going to quickly talk about one more character as well, one that's kind of moved and shifted around in the development quite a bit. The computer, the cat, the voice that supports this game, the person that kind of gives you the instructional stuff. If you play the initial start of the game, the prologue, you get the story really of how this character is formed, but it's an AI amalgamation of like some dead pilots that's been put into a construct. So we built this kind of computer that lives alongside you and helps alongside you. So it acts as a tutorial. It gets you through the menu system, but also helps you in game. And we really pushed that to make it as clear as possible. Like there was a point in time where we had the computer more as a character, like as one of the people who contributed to the game. But as we moved along, the design really required a sharpness from him, her, computer. We needed some kind of clinical information, something that cuts through all the round and the fatal, the bravado, and just gives you the information you need to play the game well. So there's still a little twang of character in there, but it's very much a more functional thing now than it was. So since we're talking about like cutting through the audio and getting onto audio pieces, I'm going to hand you over to Ash for a little bit, and he's going to explain a little bit more about the audio and building the audio of Valkyrie.
Cheers, man. Right, this is where I hope my voice doesn't crack or squeak. If I squeak, that'll probably not too bad. But yeah, for Valkyrie, we knew we had to keep things simple. There we go, Sonic mission. Our Sonic mission was to keep it very simple, and that was to, one, just keep the pilot informed of what's going on. I mean, anyone who's played the game yesterday, today, or playing today, or even the day before, you know how hectic the matches can get. I mean, you can have 1v1, 2v1, 5v1. Kind of sucks when you have 5v1. You don't really last too long. So we just wanted to make sure that any signs to let you know what situation you're in, we just push them to the front of the mix. That'll be your shields going off, alarms, notifications for when your countermeasures come back. All of this is just, you need it. You need to know what's going on. So if you're in a heavy and you're getting absolutely pummeled and you know that you have your micro warp drive, it's quite entertaining seeing people trying to charge the warp drive to get away as fast as possible. They normally end up actually screaming. And yeah, I'm starting to get bored of the word immersed as well. It's just used constantly. But yeah, that's the second half of the Sonic mission. Just trying to make the VR world as real as possible. So yeah, going to cut through to there. The second part, which I'll talk a bit more about, is the 3D spatialization technology that we've been using in our audio engine. And this has done wonders for it. So I'll tell you how exactly that works.
My favorite bit.
Yeah, big floppy ears. So the main one of the first things it does is it adds realism to panning. In a lot of game engines, say if you have a source, I'm the listener, so you have a source here, everything will be panned hard right, and you'll get nothing in the left side. That's just not natural. It's your head location. It's how we pick up sounds. So the processing, it introduces the late reflections into the other ear. And it just makes it, miles more natural. It also adds elevation. You're in space. It's not a 2D platform game. You'll have stuff coming from everywhere. And after testing it a lot, it definitely makes a huge difference. You can tell if someone's shooting at you from above or from below. The finer details, hearing all these fine details in the audio probably weren't so clear for anyone who played them here, because obviously you have the PA system playing sounds, you had the team speak, so quite a lot of it was getting masked. But when you're sitting at home and you listen, you'll be able to pick up everything around you. There's an enemy behind you, or someone just died, just exploded. Oh, voice went then. There we go. First fall. Another thing that I've noticed it's not really spoke about, because the main thing is to try and reduce VR sickness as much as possible, and that's what the entire team has done as much as they can and continue to do so to reduce VR sickness. But the 3D spatialization, it contributes to reducing that, and that is because you get VR sickness when something happens that your brain is just not expecting. And it's like watching a film. If you go to see a B movie or something, and there's like a sound effect that's missing, which blatantly should be there, you'll pick up on it straight away and you go, oh, no, there's supposed to be a door closing there or something. If you don't have, in my opinion, if you don't have the late reflections and the full round your head panning in VR, it just feels weird, and your brain will pick up on that. You might focus on that, and it will, it's different for each person, but it can contribute to making you feeling ill. So this plugin just works wonders for it. Now, I've been asked about this a lot, spoke about this a lot. It's a subject quite close to my heart. Boom, no sound in space. My simple answer, which I'd like to give, is I don't give a shit. It's... So I quite enjoy answering this question. The bottom line is, we're not aiming to be a sim. It's just a full-on, high-octane, ferocious space combat. If you want to do it competitively, you want to know what's going on. So what we have done, though, for the purists, there's no sound in space. If you want, we have an audio enhancement slider, which we've put it into the game for launch, and we will be improving on it as much as we can as well. But what this does is that if you want a bit more of a rustic, just more immersion, if you will, right now it's set to 10, so you can hear absolutely everything. If you turn it down, all the stuff outside the cockpit will be muted. So all you will hear is inside your cockpit. Whenever you fire weapons, the resonance will go through the cockpit. And John, our audio lead, and I, over the next few months, will be spending as much time as we can just adding as much detail as we can. And because it's VR, obviously, people won't be using, and I just found out they're called this, the Snoopy ears on the Oculus Rift. Not many people, well, some people like using them, some people don't. For the people who don't like using them and like using their own headphones, we've introduced a simple audio options for bass enhancement, treble enhancement. I mean, we might get extra fancy and put an EQ in there if you want to get really tweaky. So for the sound design itself, as Andy said earlier, the ships have aftermarket modification, so it's a real rugged feel, and it's quite a joy to work on personally, because you've got sci-fi and then you've just got metal, so you can just bring them together. Rugged raw energy, just the sounds like the micro warp drive when that charges. It's just, it's a sci-fi sound, but it's just got such a rugged, I don't want to say rattly, but I'll get to that in a second. It just definitely ties in with the idea that these ships, they didn't spend too much time on perfecting them, because they're churning out clones left, right, and center. So they're definitely not going to sound like, anything pristine. High impact, because it can get ferocious, it can get insane in the battles. We want it so that when you're getting hit, you fucking know about it. So if the flak cannons are hitting you and your shields are down, it's just disorientating. And yet, some people get worried with the word disorientating when it comes to VR. Those two words aren't great to put together. But I mean disorientation in more of a, whoa, oh my God, okay, yeah, I need to get out. I'm going to try and get out of here now. And then we're going to have tiny details throughout the cockpit, like I said. What's next? Seeing as we've launched now, and we've covered all the bases, keeping everyone informed of what's going on, putting in the rustic feel at least, we're going to be just spending as much time as possible breathing as much life into the cockpit as possible. And by life, I mean simple things like boosting, and then you'll hear just a little rattle in your HUD or something like that. We can put as many sounds in as we want, and we can activate them with where you're looking, and that doesn't take up any system resources. So if a sound is supposed to play, but you're not looking at it, it just won't play. We're going to focus on the resonance. Like I said, everything on the planet has a resonating frequency, so our ships may as well have one. And we'll improve ship deterioration. This is going to be the fun bit, because when you're dying and you have the glass cracking, we've already got the sound of the glass cracking when you're getting absolutely pummeled, but we are able to have it so you've just escaped, you've smashed, you've got your boost back, you're boosting, you're turning, you've got a bit of G's. If you're by yourself, you'll hear the glass bend as you're turning. And just watching people playing the game and seeing just the reactions that they get when they're getting absolutely smashed, and it's normally gritted teeth or shrieking or screaming. It's a joy to watch. So yeah, that's the plans for the audio. And I'll hand it back over to Andy.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. That was awesome. So you can see how much the creative framework has contributed to the audio stuff, and I'm a big fan of audio and VR thing. I think it's a huge part of the game, a massive part of the game, maybe more so than we had before in like traditional games. I think the way it wraps around you and stuff is such a massive part that the work that Ash and the team are doing there has given us a lot of stuff in Valkyrie. It's really pushing the game on for us. Okay, I'm going to quickly rattle through this end bit, so I've got some time to get some questions from you guys at the end, because we're going to, if you've got any questions, we can have a little chat about some stuff. So, yeah, putting all this work together has given us a great place to start from, a great base to build from. That's helped us put together some great design features, or some interesting design features, or pieces that are giving us a bit of VR, a bit of VR interest. I talked earlier on about that quite lonely Solace picture in that corner of that mood board. that really inspired the death sequence. I don't know how many people have played this weekend and experienced the death sequence. Anyone? Nice, good stuff. So you all played and just didn't die?
Liars.
Yeah. Okay. But the death sequence is designed to really give you like a moment of punctuation. Like when you leave this world and you're in the middle of this high intense action, missiles flying, explosions happening everywhere, there's machine guns whizzing past your head, like the sound is just pushing all this stuff at you. The clone gives you that little piece of solace, a little punctuation in the middle of all that high impact action. You just suddenly find yourself alone in this space with some of your squad. Maybe you've got information there. Start putting a tactical map there, other bits of gameplay information there as well that are really useful. But I really like the way that it has like a nice curve to the game, like a nice up and down kind of flow to it, where you get these little periods of just quieter time followed by huge bits of action. It also helped a lot with the building of the front end. This has been something that's been a great challenge for our team. I was here 3 years ago talking about how we were starting to work on the UI and UX of the game, and we continued to prototype and build for the last couple of years. Thankfully, we've got some great UI and UX people into the team who've made a massive, massive difference. And what we didn't want to do is give you something 2D or traditional. This is about scraping back the stuff that's been in games for the last 20 years or so and building something new. We've got a brand new medium to play with. Let's build something new. Again, going back to my original concept stuff, I was really interested in nice, bold, chunky wireframes, like 3D things that felt tangible, things you could touch, things you could move around. Thick wireframes, things kind of coating surfaces and building out of surfaces, and just something that really felt like you could touch it and manipulate it, and it was contextual to you. It was changing around you as you changed your ideas of what you required from it. And that helped us build this great front end, which I'm so happy with. Like when we see it, when we first tried it, when we first got to play it, we're just finally felt like we kind of cracked into something. AR and VR is amazing. The first time you get into a game, the first time the thing boots up around you, like everyone has that Iron Man dream, that Minority Report dream where they start swiping stuff and moving things around. Like this is pretty close for this. Like when the UI builds around you, you're sitting on the edge of this precipice, out looking at all these ships, all the things that Valkyrie has happened below you, the ships are getting loaded in, there's things happening around you. This is a working space station, and you're just hanging out there, the crow's nest is out behind you, and this full UI system just builds around you. And it's made a huge difference. It's not a 2D interface, it's not a flat interface, it doesn't feel like something that was in a game 2 or 3 or 5 years ago. This feels like an interface for a new medium. So when you do get your Oculuses and when you do get Valkyrie and you get into this stuff, I think you'll be really impressed. You can see the quartermaster here, the guy up on the top right. When you get into the shop, he's in there, he's talking to you, he's communicating to you like a futuristic Skype, just having a chat for the transactions. Another interesting character that we've got to explore further with later releases of Valkyrie. And yeah, that's what I want to talk about. Just to leave you with, this is a game that we just launched last week. We're a very small team. Started off around 17, 18. We're just up to 30 now. We've put the foundation of a great game in place. We've got a lot of space to push out in all these different elements. The creative framework exists. We've got Eve. Valkyrie has its own story. It's got its own thing going now. I think you're going to see from us more multiplayer aspects, great new maps, great new ships, great new cockpits, new storyline pieces. We're going to dig deeper into these characters, deeper into the crow's nest, deeper into Round, deeper into Fatal. These are all things we've got the potential to explore now. The stuff that we've got in back of house that we'll bring to front of house, that we'll show you guys through trailers, through graphic novels, through the game itself. So that's really our plans for the future based on our workings of the past. Thank you very much for coming. I know it's very difficult to come on a Saturday morning. It's also difficult for us to get up here and do these. Like every hour that passes of the pub crawl gets a little more scary closer to the time. But thank you very much. Feel free to add us on Twitter if you have any questions. Have you got any questions now? Does anyone like to talk to us about anything? We've got I think sort of 5-6 minutes or so if anyone has any questions. At the front.
Are we going to get some like single player experience and all? Or are you going to have any kind of storyline within the game that we can go through, or is it all just going to be multiplayer?
So as we're saying, the focus of the game is multiplayer. We had to concentrate our resources into making a great multiplayer game. Through the Chronicles, like when we showed the trailer last Fanfest, and then we had all these requests, people saying like, "Oh, I would love to play that," and it was an in-engine trailer.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, let's build that out and let people see it, and it gave us the opportunity for people to play the game. We didn't have to bring 10 machines to a show. We could bring one machine and like let people play us and experience Valkyrie in that way, and that also gave us that element. So no, we're not doing single player content as a linear storyline or like a long, 30-hour game at the moment. But these Chronicles give us it's like a little snippet, like a little piece, maybe like 4 to 6 minute, or say like 10 to 15 minute experience. By splitting it up into little chunks like that, we can move through the timeline, which I showed earlier. We can show things from the past, things from different areas. We can do things that interest us in VR as well. The convoy thing shows large ships and flying through like these huge ships and the Titan jumping on grid and the explosions and stuff. That's one aspect we can show with that. In another Chronicle, we can jump and we can show something totally different. We can take a completely new mood or feel and then bring that to the front.
Say, for example, I wasn't thinking like a 30-hour
Yeah.
experience. I was thinking more along the lines of one of my ideas for new player experience would be to have for Eve would be to have something that takes you back and shows you different mechanics of the game, but using the actual player history, not so much the Eve history, like the nullsec history, the battles, the things that happen. What if you had snippets of the Battle of Bob and some of the narrative going on with that, and then
Absolutely. No, I think
the Battle of BTAC-R.
that's in a small way. That's kind of what we've done. In a way that we go back and we tell the story of take too long to flick back to the thing, but we tell the story of how the player came around and how like you as the person got into the situation that you get into. The potential to cross over with Eve stuff is definitely there. In the future we talk about Battle of Bob, these kind of things. Like these are things we could possibly do in the future, but right now it's really about focusing on the Valkyrie storyline. Keeping it to the.
I was thinking about all the things in the when you've got the game down to what you want, when you're looking to add content or something like that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's great. And like there's this whole wealth of storylines from New Eden to tell, and we can tell them from that different perspective. We can put you right into that. So even just going over stories that are well known and bringing them into that new thing is something we can do. And also we're talking about the scout mode as well. The scout mode where you can access these monologue pieces, so as you're flying around and just kind of exploring the environments, you're getting little snippets. So they're similar to Chronicles as you would read them, like an EVE Online Chronicles, like long form, but just put in a kind of an audio, like a dictatorial form that you can listen to and sort of enjoy, and just while you're flying around space, like hear stuff. And again, just giving you those little snippets, like bringing in little aspects of characters and people that help build that world up, and helps you kind of, once you get in that headset, just feel like you're in that world.
I'm also thinking like showing off different parts of EVE Online as well, because I guess a small part of Valkyrie is maybe to get people into the New Eden universe and subbing into EVE or the new, I don't know what the Dust thing is called, but getting them to buy into other things. Like if you say had a short 10-minute battle that was an Archon or whatever carrier jumping through a wormhole and taking on a sleeper site or something like that, or whatever, so just to kind of highlight different parts of EVE as well as your story that you've got going.
No, absolutely, it has potential. Of course, there's a halo effect. When people get interested in Valkyrie, if that story interests them and that story grabs them, there's potential for them to move into EVE and want that little bit more stuff. Does anyone else have any more questions? Okay, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you coming along. Thank you.